You walk into a room full of strangers. No one touches you. No one gives you an order. Yet within seconds, your voice changes, your attention shifts, and choices that felt personal begin to bend. But the real answer is far stranger. You do not simply enter a crowd. For a while, the crowd enters you. It changes what you notice, what you fear, what feels normal, and even which version of yourself seems most real. How can people around you alter you without saying a word? Picture yourself stepping into an elevator. Everyone is facing the doors, so you face the doors too. That feels sensible. Now imagine everyone turns toward the back wall, silently and at the same time. How long would you keep facing forward? You might tell yourself that you would resist. You know where the doors are. You have no reason to turn. But your brain is not only asking where the exit is, it is asking a quieter question. What does a person like you do in a place like this? That question is ancient. For most of human history, being aligned with other people was not a matter of style. It could decide whether you found food, survived an attack, cared for a child, or made it through winter. Could a mind built for shared survival ever treat the group as background scenery? Your nervous system reads people the way it reads weather. Faces, posture, movement, and tone become signals about the environment. If 10 people suddenly stare toward a doorway, your attention jumps there before you know why. If everyone relaxes, danger feels less likely. If everyone runs, standing still begins to feel like a mistake. This is not proof that you are weak, it is proof that other minds are part of the information your brain uses to build reality. One pair of eyes can miss a threat. 20 pairs might detect it. But what happens when all 20 pairs are wrong? In the 1930s, psychologist Muzafer Sherif placed people in a dark room and showed them a tiny point of light. The light was stationary, but in darkness it appeared to move, an illusion called the autokinetic effect. Alone, each person estimated a different amount of movement. Together, their estimates slowly converged. Why would an uncertain brain borrow certainty from strangers? Because ambiguity is expensive. When your senses cannot give you a clear answer, agreement offers a shortcut. The group creates a shared measurement, and soon that measurement feels less like somebody else's opinion and more like the shape of the world. Sherif found that this shared norm could persist even when people later made judgments alone. The crowd had disappeared. Its answer remained. That is one of the first strange truths about social influence. People do not always need to be present to keep changing you. How many invisible crowds are still speaking through your habits today? Then came a harsher test. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch asked participants to compare the length of simple lines. The correct answer was obvious, but the other people in the room were secretly working with the experimenter and sometimes gave the same wrong answer. Many participants followed them at least once. Your eyes can be clear while your answer becomes uncertain. You may suspect that everyone else knows something you missed. You may also know they are wrong and still avoid becoming the lone dissenter. Is the pressure to belong strong enough to make an obvious fact feel socially dangerous? For many people, yes. But Asch also discovered something hopeful. When even one other person broke from the majority, conformity dropped sharply. The ally did not have to be powerful. The ally only had to make disagreement feel possible. This means a crowd does not control you like a machine. It changes the cost of each choice. Agreement becomes smooth, resistance becomes visible, and visibility can feel dangerous when your brain equates isolation with risk. Yet conformity is only the surface. The deeper change happens when the boundary of the word you begins to move. You usually think of identity as something stored inside you, fixed and private. But identity is also a spotlight. Which part of you is illuminated depends on who is around you. You can be a parent, a friend, a citizen, a beginner, a fan, a skeptic, and 100 other things. None of these identities is fake. Different settings bring different identities forward. At a family table, one version of you speaks. At a stadium, another one shouts. Which one is the real you? The uncomfortable answer is that both can be real. Your personal identity emphasizes what makes you different from other individuals. Your social identity emphasizes what connects you to a group. When a shared identity becomes important, the group stops feeling like a collection of strangers. It begins to feel like an expanded version of self. Psychologist Henri Tajfel revealed how little it can take to begin this shift. In his minimal group studies, people were divided using distinctions that were deliberately trivial. There was no deep history, no meaningful competition, and often no real relationship between members. Still, participants tended to favor their own assigned group when distributing rewards. How can a meaningless label acquire emotional weight so quickly? Because your mind is built to organize a social world. The moment a label creates an us and a them, attention starts sorting differences. Similarities inside the group become easier to notice. Differences across the boundary become easier to exaggerate. Soon, a random category can feel like a small moral universe. This is where old stories about crowds begin to fail. 19th century writer Gustave Le Bon described crowds as places where reason dissolved and a primitive group mind took over. That image survives in films, headlines, and everyday language. The crowd becomes a monster and the individual becomes helpless. But do real crowds actually behave like one irrational animal? Psychologist Stephen Riker challenged that idea through research on crowd conflict and collective action. His work helped develop the social identity model of crowd behavior. The central idea is simple. People in crowds do not usually abandon identity. They often shift from a personal identity to a shared one. That shift does not erase rules. It changes which rules matter. A peaceful group may restrain aggression because calm behavior expresses who its members believe they are. A hostile group may reward confrontation for the same reason. The crowd does not automatically make behavior mindless. It can make group meaning more powerful. Imagine two crowds moving through the same street. One is leaving a concert, the other is marching after an injustice. Their size may be similar, but the same shove, police line, or sudden noise can mean completely different things. Can behavior be predicted without understanding what the group believes is happening? Not very well. People respond to events through shared interpretation. If strangers around you seem like fellow fans, you may sing with them. If they seem like threatened companions, you may protect them. If they seem like rivals, the exact same closeness may feel invasive. Meaning comes before movement. This also explains why anonymity does not always produce chaos. Hiding your personal name can weaken ordinary restraints, but it can also strengthen whatever identity the group makes important. You might become crueler when cruelty is treated as loyalty. You might also become braver, kinder, or more generous when those qualities define membership. What if losing personal visibility sometimes reveals a social conscience instead of destroying it? Research on emergencies makes that possibility difficult to ignore. Psychologist John Drury and colleagues have studied how people behave during disasters and mass emergencies. Popular stories often predict panic, selfish escape, and a collapse of order. Survivor accounts frequently reveal something else. Strangers help, share information, wait, and support injured people. A common danger can create a common identity. Someone who was anonymous seconds earlier becomes one of the people going through this with you. That shared fate changes the meaning of assistance. Helping another person can start to feel less like sacrificing for a stranger and more like protecting part of the same temporary community. Could solidarity be as contagious as fear? Evidence suggests that it can. Emotion travels through a crowd, but not like a mysterious gas. You watch expressions, copy movements, hear interpretations, and infer what events mean. One calm person can become evidence of safety. One terrified rush can become evidence that danger is nearer than it appears. Your body joins before your explanation catches up. You match walking speed. You laugh more easily when laughter surrounds you. At a concert, synchronized movement can make thousands of separate bodies feel briefly connected. Why does moving together feel so powerful? Coordination is a signal. It tells your brain that other people are attending to the same thing at the same time. Shared rhythm reduces uncertainty and makes cooperation easier to imagine. The boundary between watching and participating becomes thinner. You are not merely observing the event anymore. Modern crowds do not even need to share a physical space. A comment section can provide agreement, punishment, applause, enemies, and a visible measure of belonging. Numbers beside a post tell you what thousands of absent people appeared to approve. Trending lists aim collective attention in one direction. Does a crowd become less powerful when it fits inside your hand? Often, it becomes harder to see. In a stadium, pressure has a face and a sound. On a screen, social influence can look like neutral information. A high number of likes may make a claim feel credible before you inspect it. A flood of outrage may tell you what emotion is expected before you decide what you feel. The digital crowd also follows you home. Sheriff's participants carried a group norm into later individual judgments. You can carry online norms into rooms where the phone is silent. The phrases you repeat, The risks you avoid and the people you dismiss may still be shaped by an audience that is no longer present. When does influence end and identity begin? There may be no clean border. Your identity was never assembled in isolation. Language came from other people. Values arrived through families, friendships, institutions, stories, and arguments. The goal is not to become untouched by crowds, because an untouched human self may not exist. The useful goal is to notice which crowd is active inside you. Ask what identity the situation is bringing forward. Ask which behavior earns belonging here. Ask whether disagreement is truly dangerous or merely uncomfortable. Then look for the missing ally. Sometimes you can become that ally. As Asch's research showed, one dissenting voice can change the social geometry of a room. It gives hesitation somewhere to stand. It reminds other people that the majority is not the same thing as reality. How many silent doubts are waiting for one person to speak first? Crowds can narrow you. They can also enlarge you. They can make cruelty feel ordinary, courage feel possible, falsehood feel safe, or compassion feel shared. Their power does not come from replacing your mind. It comes from changing the answer to who you think you are. So the next time your voice rises with a chant, your opinion softens under a row of confident faces, or your finger pauses above an unpopular reply. Notice the shift. The feeling is not outside you. It is your social brain updating the map of self. The crowd is showing you a version of who you could become. Will you accept it without looking? You walk into a room full of strangers and discover that the stranger being rewritten is you.